Hey guys, it's Amanda from AmandaReads, and today I'm going to be giving you a bookshelf tour. This bookshelf is for my standalones, and then that bookshelf is for my series. And I'm just going to be focusing on my series bookshelf for today's bookshelf tour. This is the first shelf on my series bookshelf. First we have the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling, and the first book I have is the illustrated edition of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Then I have the UK edition of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the UK edition of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and the UK edition of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, the American edition of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, the UK edition of Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, the American version of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, and finally the American version of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Now we're moving on to the Twilight series by Stephanie Meyers, starting with the 10th anniversary edition of Twilight with Life and Death. Then we have my first paperback edition of Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and finally Breaking Dawn. Next I have the first book in the If I Stay duology by Gail Forman. I have the movie tie-in edition and the original edition of If I Stay. Moving on to the Janie Johnson series by Caroline B. Cooney, we have The Face on the Milk Carton, Book 1. Book 2, Whatever Happened to Janie. Book 3, The Voice on the Radio. Book 4, What Janie Found. And the final book, Book 5, Janie Face to Face. Next I have Book 1 in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children trilogy by Ransom Riggs, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Now we're going to move on to the second shelf on my series bookshelf. First we have the Infernal Devices trilogy by Cassandra Clare. This is Book 1, Clockwork Angel. Book 2, Clockwork Prince. And the concluding book in the trilogy, Clockwork Princess. Moving on to the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare, we have Book 1, The City of Bones, and this is the movie tie-in edition. Book 2, City of Ashes. Book 3, City of Glass. Book 4, City of Fallen Angels. Book 5, City of Lost Souls. And finally, Book 6 in the Mortal Instruments series, which is City of Heavenly Fire. I also have the Shadowhunters Codex on this shelf because it goes along with the Mortal Instruments and the Infernal Devices. I'm not sure if Carolyn Kepnes's You series is going to just be a duology or a series, but this is the first book in that, which is You. Next we have the Hunt trilogy by Andrew Fukuda, and this is Book 1, The Hunt. Book 2, The Prey. And Book 3, The Trap. Next on the shelf is the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness, and this is a box set. Book 1 in the trilogy is A Discovery of Witches. Book 2, Shadow of Night. And Book 3, The Book of Life. Moving on to the Lux series by Jennifer L. Armentrout, I have the first bind-up Beginnings, which is the first 2 books, Obsidian and Onyx. Then I have the Consequences bind-up, which is the 3rd book, Opal, and the 4th book, Origin. And finally, the last book in the series, which is Opposition. Now we're going to move on to the third shelf on my series bookshelf. I have the first book in the Land of Story series by Chris Colfer called The Wishing Spell. Next is Book 1 in the Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place series by Mary Rose Wood, titled The Mysterious Howling. Next I have The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, which is the first book in the Fifth Wave trilogy, and this is the movie tie-in edition. I also have Book 2 in the Fifth Wave trilogy, which is The Infinite Sea by Rick Yancey. Next we have the Birthright trilogy by Gabrielle Zevin, and this is Book 1, All These Things I've Done. Book 2, Because It Is My Blood, and Book 3, In the Age of Love and Chocolate. Next on my shelf is the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, and this is Book 1, Shadow and Bone. Book 2 is Siege and Storm, and Book 3, Ruin and Rising. Next we have the Mara Dyer trilogy by Michelle Hodkin, with Book 1, The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer. Book 2, The Evolution of Mara Dyer, and Book 3, The Retribution of Mara Dyer. Moving on to the Hunger Games trilogy by Suzanne Collins, we have Book 1, The Hunger Games. Book 2, Catching Fire, and Book 3, Mockingjay. Next is the Arkwell Academy trilogy by Mindy Arnett, and this is Book 1, The Nightmare Affair. Book 2, The Nightmare Dilemma, and Book 3, The Nightmare Charade. Moving on to the Ugly series by Scott Westerfeld, I have a bind-up of the first 2 books, Uglies and Pretties. Book 3 in the series is called Specials, and Book 4, Extras. Next we have the Au Pair series by Melissa De La Cruz, and this is Book 1, Beach Lane. Book 2, Skinny Dipping. Book 3, Sunkissed. And Book 4, Crazy Hot. Now we're going to move on to the 4th shelf on my series bookshelf. We have the Starters duology by Lissa Price, and this is Book 1, Starters. Book 2 of the Starters duology is called Enders. Then we have the Hopeless duology by Colleen Hoover, and this is Book 1, Hopeless. And book 2 in the Hopeless duology is Losing Hope. Moving on to the Lunar Chronicles by Marissa Meyer, we have book 1, Cinder, book 2, Scarlet, and book 3, Cress. Then we have the first book in the Storybound duology by Marissa Burt, and this is Storybound. And then book 2 in the Storybound duology by Marissa Burt is Story's End. Next we have the 1-800 Where Are You series by Meg Cabot, and this is book 1, When Lightning Strikes. Book 2, Codename Cassandra. Book 3, Safe House. Book 4, Sanctuary. And book 5, Missing You. Next we have the Blue is for Nightmares series by Lori Faria Stolars, and this is book 1, Blue is for Nightmares. Book 2, White is for Magic. Book 3, Silver is for Secrets. And book 4, Red is for Remembrance. This author also released Black is for Beginnings a few years after the last book, but I did not end up purchasing it. Next we have the Shatter Me trilogy by Tahara Mafi, and this is book 1, Shatter Me. Book 2, Unravel Me. And book 3, Ignite Me. Next is the Divergent trilogy by Veronica Roth, and this is book 1, Divergent. Book 2, Insurgent. And book 3 in the trilogy is Allegiant. Then we have the Magic duology by Kathy McCullough, and this is book 1, Don't Expect Magic. Book 2 in the duology is Who Needs Magic. Then I have book 1 in the Not a Drop to Drink duology by Mindy McGinnis, which is Not a Drop to Drink. Next on the shelf, we have the Firefly Lane duology by Kristen Hanna, and this is book 1, Firefly Lane, and book 2 in the duology, which is called Fly Away. Next is the Cormoran Strike series by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling, and this is book 1, The Cuckoo's Calling. And then I also have book 2, which is called The Silkworm. Now we are moving on to the 5th and final shelf on my series bookshelf. We have book 1 in the Anne of Green Gables series by L.M. Montgomery, which is Anne of Green Gables. Moving on to the Sisterhood series by Amber Shares, we have book 1, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Book 2, The Second Summer of the Sisterhood. Book 3, Girls in Pants, The Third Summer of the Sisterhood. And book 4, Forever in Blue, The Fourth Summer of the Sisterhood. Next I have book 1 in the Bone Season series by Samantha Shannon, which is titled The Bone Season. Next is the Diviners series by Libba Bray, and this is book 1, The Diviners. And book 2, which is titled Lair of Dreams. I'm not sure why this came out so dark, but this is the first book in the Control duology by Lydia Kang, titled Control. Next is the House of Secrets trilogy by Chris Columbus and Ned Vizzini, and this is book 1, titled House of Secrets. And I also have book 2, titled Battle of the Beasts. Next is the To All the Boys I've Loved Before duology by Jenny Han, and this is book 1, To All the Boys I've Loved Before. And then we have the second book in the duology titled P.S. I Still Love You. Continuing on with the Jenny Han theme, I have the Summer trilogy in a bind-up, which has The Summer I Turned Pretty, It's Not Summer Without You, and We'll Always Have Summer. I also have a physical copy of the second book in the trilogy, It's Not Summer Without You. First book in the Bearhaven series by K.E. Rocha, titled Secrets of Bearhaven. I have the first book in the Mila 2.0 series by Deborah Driza, titled Mila 2.0. I also have the first book in the Dead City trilogy by James Ponti, titled Dead City. Book 1 in the Lion Game series by Sarah Shepard, titled The Lion Game. The last series on my shelf is the Pretty Little Liars series by Sarah Shepard. This is book 1, Pretty Little Liars. Book 2, Flawless. Book 3, Perfect. Book 4, Unbelievable. Book 5, Wicked. Book 6, Killer. Book 7, Heartless. And book 8, Wanted. And the final 8 books I have in ebook form. So that is it for my series bookshelf. I hope you enjoyed that bookshelf tour. There were a total of 45 series mentioned in this video. And I also have a children's series that is on my standalone bookshelf, but you will get to see that once I do my standalone bookshelf tour. Bye guys, see you soon.